thank you for watching Helix so far. I thought I would do a little breakdown of the Max patch and how it works, because I built this all, in Max MSP software. So this is what it looks like when you load it up. I will show you just a brief overview of the patch because, not to toot my own horn, but it is the biggest patch I've ever made. So this is some of it, and then it keeps going down here, keeps going, gets to the face stuff, and then there's the bottom output. Now, yes, it is quite spread out. Like, I probably could have lumped it all closer together, but I needed to be able to see sections quite clearly, otherwise it got very confusing. So that's why it's kind of laid out in sections. So how it works, I'm sure I've already said a little bit in the description, but I'll kind of run it through briefly here. Basically, you get a camera feed straight in. Here I'm using my laptop webcam, which is what I actually used to film this as well. And then that goes through into cv.jit. So cv.jit is a Max external. I can't quite remember where I got it from, whether it was inside Max or not. I will tell you. Also, yeah, you can already hear my computer fan going crazy. This patch takes a lot to run. I built this kind of November, December time last year, and since then I've built a lot of other Max patches. Probably some things I would change about this. So it takes a camera feed. That goes through cv.jit. In this case, it's specifically cv.jit frame sub, and that enables it to know how many frames or pixels are changing each frame. So there we go, I actually write it. Figures out how many pixels are changing from frame to frame, aka detecting how much movement there is. So if you move very, very quickly and a lot of pixels change, then you get a higher number that comes out here in cv.jit mass. I then have to scale that data depending on kind of the room size and things like that, where is close and where is far away, and where is a lot of movement and where is not a lot of movement. Depending on how much light is in the room, is the camera picking up a lot, is it not picking up a lot? So there's quite a few variables, but I tend to not scale it too much differently than this. And then that outputs a certain number of pixels that are changing. And then that number gets sent to a bunch of if statements, basically. So if it's above a certain number, it will trigger a fast movement or fast music. And then if it's kind of a medium number, it will trigger a medium speed musical thing. And then if it's slow, it will trigger a slow musical device. So you can see this here in my F major section. The piece is actually comprised of 3 sections. Here's the fast section. So you can see there are clarinet fall-offs that I recorded. There are kind of piano arpeggios, fast glisses, piano melodies, things like that. Clarinet glisses over here. And then if I go down to medium, now you can see why I have it kind of distant so I can see what's going on. Kind of have some slightly slower broken arpeggios, clarinet tremolos, wide vibratos, that sort of thing. And then if we move down to slow, which is currently playing, although none of us can hear it because I have it turned down, this is kind of the drone stuff. So this bit over here on the right hand side, that plays constantly. So there will always be a constant slow drone. When there's nobody in frame, there's nobody there, it will just play a very slow drone. And then everything else gets built over the top of that. So if you move slowly, you trigger maybe a chord or other extra slow note on the clarinet, something like that. Each section is in a different key. I've got F major, C minor, E minor. I've got some notes down here so that I know what I'm talking about. And I also included different instruments for those. So the C minor section is known for having its bass clarinet. The other sections, I think it must be E minor then, is like flute and really like high. I tried to give them kind of different timbres and different feels so that it actually felt like you were moving between sections. And so that's how the movement controls the music, basically. And then you have things like panning and volume. So those are the other 2 parameters that can be controlled by the person in the frame. How it works is by detecting the face. Let me scroll down to that right now so I can show you. So this also uses cv.jit. I love that it is frozen on that amazing face of me. I love that. cv.jit.faces detects regions that resemble frontal views of human faces. It's okay. I feel like if I were to do this now, I've discovered something called MediaPipe, Google MediaPipe. I would use that, I think, but perhaps that is slightly more CPU intensive. I don't know, I would have to test it, but cv.jit.faces only kind of detected faces to about 2 meters away from the camera. And so there was a certain point where it was still detecting movement back here, but if you wanted to control panning or volume, you had to be that little bit closer. So I think people figured that out. Like, I didn't really have to say that to anybody, but it's just kind of a slight downside to it. But then I guess if you were using a slightly better camera, slightly better webcam, it might work better, but I also found that that created lag as well using a separate webcam, so you've got to make sure you've got a really fast cable and all that jazz. So CV.jit.faces detects the face, and this P window allows me to just see what it's drawing, which is helpful. And then that data I send out into people. So I have it could detect I think up to 9, but I have it detecting up to 5 because I just, after that it becomes kind of a bit pointless for me and what I'm using it for. So that would just basically tell me their X coordinate and their Y coordinate so I know where they are. Now that information gets fed directly into panning. So this is where it receives the information and it pans it. Now then I ran into the problem of, okay, I'm sending 5 people to this panning device. It's not going to know what to do. So I had to create some code that allowed it to detect who was closest to the camera. So the person closest to the camera would be the person controlling panning and volume. So to do this, I had to take those XY coordinates and a bunch of other little details and figure out the area of the face, because the person that would be closest to the camera would hopefully have the largest area face. And so that's how I did that. So that is all of this up here. You can see here I've made a little B patcher called area, and then that goes through something called through a change object, but I've just put it in a patcher as well, so that if it's not changing, it kind of gets deleted from the data. Because if you got really, really close and then you moved far away again, you wouldn't want it to hold on to that really, really close information. You'd want that to go as well. So change means if it hasn't changed in a while, it gets rid of that data. And then that goes into a B patcher called P highest that I created, that basically just tells you which is the highest, which person has the largest area, but it's called highest because it detects the highest number, but for us it's largest area. And then that gets sent into panning, and then this gets sent to volume. So only the person closest, their coordinates, get sent to the panning and the volume, basically. You will have heard in the video that when a person moved right, you heard it kind of on your left, and that's because it's set up, the speakers are set up for the person in front. So if I'm facing this way, my right is this side. So I'm hearing it on my right. I didn't set it up so that if I moved right, it came out of there. Because when I tried that, it just felt like I wasn't really noticing the panning. When you're the person stood in front of the speakers, it's nice to be able to feel the sound moving with you. It sounds right when you're in it, but obviously I was filming from a different angle, not from like front facing, I was filming from behind. So yeah, that's why the sound does move right with you and then move left with you. That's how it works. So just at the very end, I just have a little reverb added on just to make it all sound kind of nice and like it's in a nice little hall, little room, because I did record all of the sounds in a studio, so they were quite dry sounds. So just adding a little bit of reverb here. And then of course, just mentioning how it moves between sections. So I have it set up so that every 50, I think it is, every 50 large movements that go over a certain amount of pixel change, if there's 50 of those, it triggers it to move on to the next section. And that's where a crossfade happens, and then that triggers the next section to start, and then another 50 big movements, and that triggers the next section as a crossfade into that one, and it just loops between them. So it could go on endlessly, like you could just set this up as an installation and have it run all day perfectly fine. When I did it for Soundbar, which was a kind of concert setting, but people could come up and interact with it, I had it with a 10-minute cutoff. Here we are, right here at the top. So I clicked beginning, which played like a little intro chord, and then the drone would start. And then this would count for 10 minutes. And then at the end of the 10 minutes, it would trigger the ending, which was this other chord at the end, and then it would fade everything down whilst that was happening. And it would end. So you can give it a start and an end if you want to, but it can also just run endlessly as long as your laptop has power. If I move to the right, the audio goes over here, and that's obviously detecting movement. And then if I move back over here to the left, it follows me here to the left. Oh, because I'm quite close to the camera, I've triggered 50 big movements, so it's just changed section as well. So there you go, that's it, changing section. Usually I'm a little bit further back and I scale the data according to the room, which I haven't for this. But you can see the numbers coming through, you can see the numbers coming out, detecting how much I'm moving. So if I did a big movement in C minor, you should actually be able to see some things playing. There you go, you can see them start to play. If I do it again, that triggers another set to go. So yeah, that's how it works. Thank you so much for checking this out and for watching through to the end. I really appreciate it. And stay tuned for more Mac stuff, crazy compositions to come this year. I've got lots of stuff on, so thank you so much. See you soon.